Hello friends. Well, on 29th of July, we witnessed two historic events. One is of course the arrival of Rafale aircraft, a much talked about event in media. And the other one is our cabinet ministry sanctioning new national education policy which is of equal importance and in fact a long awaited change in the existing educational system. I know you have already read enough about this policy in several WhatsApp messages and seen experts and enthusiasts talking about it in the several different YouTube videos. Don't worry. I'm not here to repeat the same thing, but rather I'm here to share my views, the views of a homeschooling parent on this new national education policy. And let me tell you, I was really pleased to see the clear mention of homeschooling as one of the officially accepted methods of learning in the draft of education policy. But then, still, the question remains, right? Whether to homeschool or continue with the traditional schooling system. Let me tell you something about us, okay? We had some definite reasons behind deciding to homeschool our daughter Jannavi. There were certain core educational values which we found lacking in the existing school-based education system, and therefore we denied the existing educational system and moved on with homeschooling our daughter. Now, in view of this new education policy, can I say that if had it been in place when we were to decide whether to homeschool our daughter or otherwise, we would have rather continued with the regular schooling? Or are there still some core educational values missing which make the homeschooling still a worth alternative to consider? Okay, let's discuss certain points of this new education policy through the specs of a homeschooling parent. Well, before we dive into this topic, I must admit that it's still a very early stage of this policy making process. It's only the cabinet who have sanctioned the bill. Now this bill will be presented in Lok Sabha and then may undergo some rounds of changes and amendments after discussions in Lok Sabha. Then after that, the bill will acquire the status of an act and then it will be passed down to the chief ministers of our states. The CMs will need to make all the necessary arrangements to implement the policy in their states, and only then we, the citizens of India, will get to see this new educational policy in action. So yes, still quite a long route to follow, and then the policy itself has a roadmap of 10 long years to implement it to its fullest. But having said that, the first step towards educational reform was necessary, and I join all those who want to congratulate the policymakers to come up with some visionary plan to reform education in India. A much long awaited decision indeed. Now, let's talk about some points proposed in this education policy which are much in tune with our philosophy of homeschooling. One core value we inculcated in our homeschooling was flexibility in learning. See, personally, I have faced this problem in my education as well. I always wanted to have a formal education of economics and commerce, and yet I wanted to continue my science stream as well. But the rigid educational system forced me to pick only one. This new educational policy has proposed to put an end to the stream-based learning. So you will be able to pick the subjects you want to learn. It doesn't matter if the subject belongs to arts, commerce or science. And this is really good, I tell you. Another thing which I must mention here is introducing vocational education from standard 6. And if implemented this point properly, this can prove to be a game changer for sure. This is another one of the core values of our homeschooling philosophy. In existing education system, student becomes eligible for ITI or diploma courses only after completion of 10th. Now that bar is brought down considerably. This will help the children to learn life skills in early age, and just in case, if they fail to continue their schooling for any reason, they will still have some skills acquired from their schooling in order to make something out of it for their living. This in turn will of course help to reduce the unemployment in our society. Not just the vocational, there is another good proposal in this policy regarding IT education. This policy proposes to introduce computer coding from 6th standard. I have seen this already in place in China, and good to see this proposal in our policy as well. Honestly, I have a few concerns about it. Personally, I will never ask a child to learn any programming language or do any coding work. Believe me, programming comes later, really. First is to be good at problem solving. Personally, I would like to see children of this young age to start with Shakuntala Devi puzzles, maybe, and develop the logic building and problem solving aptitude. But talking in general, yes, this is definitely a good move and it's a welcome proposal. Another factor which is very important in homeschooling is encouragement to learn. And I see policymakers have given their best to keep the interest of students in studies. For this, policymakers seems to think that giving them some milestones will help them keep glued to the system and continue higher studies. This is what they termed as multiple entry exit points in studies. So for example, if you complete the first year of your formal education, you will get a certificate. If you complete 2 years, you will get a diploma. If you complete 3 years and if your course is of total 3 years, you will get a bachelor's degree. And if you're learning or if you're studying something like engineering, then the final year will be for research. And after completion of that, you will get the degree along with the research certificate. And tell you what, this is really good. Personally, I missed this in my engineering college days. I wish we had the last year reserved only for research. But again, I have a few concerns related to it. Research is not something you can ask each and every to pursue. It requires a very different aptitude and mindset. So what if someone doesn't want to pursue any research? Will he be allowed to take away the degree after 3 years and look for a job? Will that candidate be treated as a dropout candidate or someone who has completed his education? And also, what's going to be there for the final year? Only research or still some more subjects to study? Well, these are just a few questions, and as I mentioned, research is not everyone's job. So education system should not enforce such things on the students. Well, if they want to pursue research, they will. Let them decide. But all in all, yes, this is again a very good reform proposed and a welcome point for sure. In existing system, if someone fails to complete the years of degree, his educational status falls back straight to just 12th pass. This is certainly not his worth, right? This reform has made sure every effort of yours towards education will be counted and recognized. And I believe this is really a good move. Talking about counting your effort, counting and recognizing your effort towards education, the last point I want to share with you all, which even we followed in our homeschooling in a very limited scope and domain, of course, and that is the credit system. The new education policy proposes credits for the completion of certain projects, tasks, and even the educational years. See, as a business person running my own company and so often in need to recruit people for different posts, I like this credit system for sure. But only if I can gain access to this database while interviewing someone for a certain post. This, I believe, may put a full stop on the fake education certificates, and this can give a very good idea of the candidate, his aptitude and his educational background as a whole for me as a HR person or as a company owner while recruiting that person. Well, in addition to the points I just discussed in this video so far, there are a few more points which are really good and perfectly in tune with the philosophy of homeschooling, such as assessment based on understanding rather than memory-based learning, the objective exams and the aptitude test carrying equal importance, the education in your local language or in your mother tongue, and the equal importance to the non-academic subjects like music and sports, and many such points which are mentioned in this policy are really good, and I heartily congratulate the policymakers for taking such wonderful steps towards improving education standard in India. Now, having said that, does this mean that the new policy is satisfactory? Well, if you ask me, satisfactory on paper, of course, yes. But I have a few concerns regarding the actual implementation of this policy. I still have a few questions in mind and some concerns, especially regarding the reform of educational structure, the years. Instead of 10 plus 2, now we are going to have 5-4-4-3 structure. The new policy asks to merge down the 11th and 12th with 9th in the single slab. I'm not sure how the existing educational institutes are going to deal with it. There are several schools who may not be able to upgrade their classrooms for 11th and 12th. In such case, parents may prefer to drift to different educational institutes with the facility till 12th, and this in turn may help only the wealthy and healthy institutes to survive, whilst other which cannot upgrade may just collapse. But more than this, my concern is about that very first slab, the preparatory slab as they call it, for the age 3 to 6. This is quite a tender age and introducing educational values at such an early age is certainly a very good idea. I definitely support this idea, but is school the right place for this? Sorry, but with due respect to all those wonderful teachers who are truly the exceptions in my eyes, personally, I really doubt the expertise of teachers to be able to achieve the goal for this particular first slab. And moreover, there is a proposed capping for fees in this policy, but I am yet to learn any such capping for the number of students per class for such early age education. Then it can become a race against money. If you want to send your children to a school with less number of students per class, pay considerably high fees, or else settle with the crowd of 40 to 80 students in one class. Maybe because I don't have much faith in the schooling system for value-added education, I find sending out children at such an early age to place like school is little risky. This is the best age when the parents and elderly at home may spend more time with kids and nurture them with your traditions and your sanskar. Policymakers say they will train the teachers within 3 years for assessment reforms and new teaching methods. Well, the teacher training program is here for quite some time, and really it never took off. Nothing good or notable has happened in this sector for last so many years. So I'm really optimistic and really wish that current policymakers will make sure the teacher training program goes well in each and every state in our country. See, the problem until now is everything looks very promising on paper, but when it comes to implementation, things quickly start falling off. There are many provisions in this policy which demand reform in syllabus as well. I mean, consider this scenario: someone walking in with a diploma certificate after completing 2 years out of 4 years of his total course. I can consider this candidate only if those 2 years of his syllabus have given him enough for me to recruit him against a good CTC. Look at the existing syllabus of degree and you will understand what I mean here. So the reform will need to continue on several different fronts in order to implement this policy with great effect. Same is the case with the educational institutes. Many don't have enough infrastructure. The policy proposes to have distant learning facilities as well as a smart classroom for the hands-on learning. Further, I think in chapter 12 of this education policy booklet, it proposes to raise the standard of universities and colleges so that foreign students will come and study here in India. Well, this is really a very good move and a most awaited encouragement, because if this happens, it will help our students as well. But educational institutes who rarely spend money on educational upgrades will need to take some heavy load of expenses on them in order to prepare themselves to deal with the proposed provisions of the education policy. Will they do it without any resistance? Plus, there is going to be a capping on the fees as well. So, will this open up some new backdoors in the education system to earn more money? Only the time can tell. Well, the challenges are there, but again, I would say it was important to take the first step towards positive reform in the education sector. And for this, I again would like to congratulate the policymakers for their best effort to improve educational framework in our country. I am truly very optimistic and really wish this policy makes its way to the ground implementation as soon as possible. And even if that happens, I still find homeschooling an option more worthy and worth to consider as an alternative. Well, thank you so much for listening me. You're welcome to share your queries and opinions in the comment box, minus the politics, please. See, this is quite a long and lengthy booklet. I tried my best to cover the points related to the homeschooling, especially in this particular video. But if you have any queries related to any specific sector or any specific segment of this particular education policy, you're welcome to write it in the comments, and I will definitely try my level best to get back to you. Right then, thank you so much and wish you a good time.